Hello, in this video we'll be looking at issue 5 of Warhammer 40,000 Imperium magazine, the new captain that comes with this issue and is exclusive to the magazine, and then letting him loose on the battlefield. Hello, I'm Mike and this is Will. We are the Tabletop Donkeys.
Hello.
And we're bringing you issue 5 of Warhammer 40,000 Imperium magazine today. And in this issue we get a captain miniature for the Space Marines, and this miniature is actually unique to this magazine as well. And if you want to see him in a game, you can use a time code in the description or use the correct chapter in the chapter bar. But before that, having a quick look through the issue. First up, we have the battle record for the Primaris Captain. Notes that they're decorated company commanders, and it goes over some of the many awards he's earned. So he has his service studs, so each one represents 100 years of service. Things like his marksman honours, the Crux Terminatus, and also some of his war gear, like his sword and his plasma pistol and his Imperial Law. Also, he's important because he's got a cape. That's how he's in charge. And then the actual battle record, like the other ones, you can give him a name and some titles, his leadership style and that sort of thing, and name his weapons and all that. And then we have a brief overview of the weapons that the Space Marines will use. And it mentions things like the bolt rifles that fire explosive bolts, flame weapons and plasma weapons. And over on the next page, it goes over some of the melee weapons. So you have the iconic chainsword, various power weapons, usually the sword and the axe being the most common power weapons, as well as the thunder hammer and the power fist. And it also mentions force weapons here, which are used by librarians who are psychic warriors, and they are able to channel their psychic power through their force weapons. There is some backstory on Megaria. So this is the planet that has turned out to be a Necron tomb world. So it was originally an industrial moon around the gas giant Gliantha. It used to process the gas that was harvested from the gas giant. But since the Necrons have awoken, they've started taking over the planet and reimagining it in their vision. Now the Space Marines, as part of Task Force 15, have arrived to try and reclaim the planet. And over on the next page we have some of the major locations of Megaria. So the Necron repair facility we've seen. No doubt we'll be fighting over some of these later in the magazine. And next up we have a short story called Heart of the Storm. This covers a Space Marines from the Fulminators chapter, a successor of the Ultramarines, fighting against the Chaos Space Marines of the Crimson Slaughter. We haven't learned about Chaos so far in this magazine, but they are Space Marines who have betrayed the Imperium and now worship the ruinous powers of Chaos rather than the God Emperor. And he goes over some backstory of the Crimson Slaughter here. Anyway, now we have the build guide for the Primaris Captain. Unlike the other models we had so far, this one is not pushed together, so you will need glue. And it also goes over how to use a mould line remover, which I don't think we've seen so far. Look over them, you can see the mould lines that you need to file off, basically just lightly file away so until the parts are smooth. And it also notes how before you apply glue, you should test fit pieces first, just to make sure they're all correct. Also, there's no peg for his 40mm base, you actually have to glue him to the base as well. And then the painting guide. So they actually tell you to undercoat him entirely blue. It's a bit odd that they tell you to undercoat his weapons and things blue, because over on the next page you'll be painting those silver anyway. But you're undercoating some of these parts will probably eventually be gold, as you can see in the fully painted miniature. Everybody doesn't know it will have more colours coming. So we also have a little fold-out to look at as well, and this goes over the hierarchies of Necron dynasties. All of this just kind of goes over how this hierarchy functions. It does mention a lot of things, like the Raw Wardens here will act as bodyguards and lieutenants to overlords and lords, things like the Lich Guard and Cryptex, and lower down through the hierarchy as well. Over on the next page, here it talks about how the Necrons will actually fight. So usually large swarms of Canoptic Scarabs will attack, and then lines of monoliths, and then the legions of warriors led by lords and overlords and their various nobles. And here you can see a showcase of some of these models. Unfortunately, you don't actually get most of these in that magazine. Arrayed for battle against the Eldari, another alien race, which no doubt we'll learn about in the future. And it also points out how all of these warriors fit into the hierarchy. So you have the leaders all the way back here, part of the Raw Corps, of these scarabs, which are canoptic constructs, and the legions of warriors, and then the armory, these monoliths. You have here a Catan shard. This is of the Void Dragon, one of the Necron star gods. And here you actually have the Silent King Zarek himself. That is his miniature. Once again, unfortunately, you don't get him with the magazine. But with all of that over, we can finally get into our game for this issue.
So here we have the background for our game for this issue. So obviously we've got the new Space Marine Captain who has arrived, and his troops are separated and bogged down in hand-to-hand combat, and so he's going to lead by example, charging in and taking on the Necron destroyers. So his little briefing is he was isolated from the rest of his troops, but he's finally managed to make his way into the Necron facility and now needs to reunite the survivors. But the destroyers are standing in his way, and as with everything else, they're just trying to kill him. So here's our setup. We're back on the small board for this game, so we've got the 3 destroyers on points C, D and E, so there's one in the middle and one in the 2 corners, and the Primaris Captain starts on point A in one of the opposite corners. We have a datasheet profile for the Primaris Captain, so like the rest of the Space Marines, he has a 6-inch move, he has a weapon skill of 2+, he has 6 wounds because he's really tough, he has 5 attacks because he's really good at melee, and he has a 3+ save. You'll notice he has 2 weapons here because we learn how to use both his sword and his pistol in this game. It also doesn't give a ballistic skill value for the Captain, which he will need to shoot his plasma pistol, so maybe that's an oversight, but it does tell us in the section to come that his ballistic skill is 2+. And the plasma pistol itself is a pistol weapon, which has a meaning that we'll learn in a moment. It doesn't say here, but it can make 1 shot. And there are 2 new things to note on here. The first is something called AP, which stands for Armour Penetration. This is basically how good your weapons are at going through an enemy's armour, and the value there, -3, is what the enemy has to subtract from their save rolls. And there's also something under his abilities. He has an Iron Halo, which gives him a 4+ Invulnerable save. An Invulnerable save is like a normal save, but it's not modified by Armour Penetration, and we'll see how that works in a second. And the Scorplate Destroyers are the same as they were in the previous game, but their Hyperphase Blades, it notes, have an AP of -3. So how does Armour Penetration work? Well, it means that when you attack something and it makes its save rolls, you have to modify the value of the roll by the AP value of the attacking weapon. So in this example, the Destroyer has rolled a 4 for its save, which would normally be a success with a 3+, but because it's being shot with something with AP -3, that roll is modified by -3 down to 1, which is obviously a failure because it's not 3 or more. But then invulnerable saves, as it says in this little box, are never modified by AP characteristic of attacks. That means that the Captain's 4+ invulnerable save will always be a 4+, and it can never be made worse than that. It also notes that it's a separate save that it can use instead of its normal save. And then we have the playthrough example, so this is the Space Marine Captain's turn, so he can move and he can shoot with his plasma pistol, and here it says he has a ballistic skill of 2+, with 1 dice from his plasma pistol, and then the Necron player will have to make saves, but modified by the AP characteristic if they get hit. And down here there's just an example of that. So the Captain isn't allowed to move within engagement range, but then he can still shoot his pistol. But then combining rules from previous issues, so he can now charge and fight as well as shoot. That all works the same as we learnt previously, but it's worth noting he has 5 attacks, and yeah, the AP value also applies in melee combat from his power sword. And again, there's an example here, and it just shows some example rolls, so you can see how the armour penetration value works. Once he's had his turn, then the Necrons get their turn. They don't have any ranged weapons, so they can only move, charge and fight. And then when fighting, their melee attacks have AP -3 again as well. So the Captain's normal save won't do him much good because all his rolls will be reduced, but he can use his 4+ invulnerable save, which is not modified. And again, there's just an example here just to clarify how that works. And then back to the Space Marine turn, and the only thing to note here is that pistol weapons, as his plasma pistol is, can shoot at enemy units that are within engagement range. So normally you can't shoot when you're in engagement range, but if you have a pistol you can shoot at people who are in engagement range of you. And so yeah, here he's shooting at the destroyer that he's engaged with. And then he finishes his turn and carry on, and the victor is the one who has last model standing, essentially. Whichever side is wiped out loses the game. So that should be fairly straightforward. New rules to learn, so we'll get onto the game and we'll get to see how all those work. And here we are back in the Catacombs of Megaria. We've got the 3 destroyers in their allotted positions and the Captain up in the top right corner there. But the Space Marines get the first turn, so Captain can go.
So in the movement phase, I'm just going to move up normally. It's going to move up so we're an inch away from this destroyer in the middle. And then in the shooting phase, we're going to shoot him with the Captain's plasma pistol, so he needs a 2+. Oh, that's a 1, so he missed. Then he will try to charge the destroyer. Yeah, 5 is definitely enough, because he can't actually fail. And it's going to move like that. Then the Captain has 5 melee attacks, hitting on 2s, getting 4.
And then I have to make my saves, but all of these rolls are modified by -3, which essentially, because I need 3+, that basically means that only 6s will be successful. And they've all failed, because even a 5 -3 is 2, which is less than 3+. So that's 4 wounds done to the destroyer, which is therefore killed.
And it's worth noting what we'll do, and what you'll probably see in other battle reports on YouTube, is rather than saying I have a 3+ save and I'm modifying these by -3, we'll just say I have a 6+ save instead. You just add the AP value to your save value.
Yeah, that's a common way of doing things, but
that's the end of the Captain's turn on to the destroyers.
Well, there's nothing to be lost really. So by hanging around, so they're both going to move up. They can go up to 8 inches. They'll both just move like this to get an inch away, so they've got plenty of movement to do that. And then they'll both charge. So, I mean, I'll roll them, but they don't really need to. So I'm 11 for the one at the top, and then the one closest to the camera, yeah, 9. We'll put one on the other side. And I'll do all their attacks together as well, because...
yeah, they're all using the same weapons, so they're all attacking the same target, so it's just quicker to combine them.
So 6 attacks between the two of them, hitting on 3s. They have a 3+, so they get 4 hits.
Yeah, so I'm going to use the Captain's Invulnerable save rather than his normal save, because 4+ is better than 6+. So 4+ saves, making 1, so he takes 3 damage and goes down to 3 wounds. We use the dice to show wounds remaining rather than wounds taken.
And then we're back to the Captain's turn.
So he's not going to fall back or anything, he's going to go straight to the shooting phase. We'll shoot his pistol at this one with a big sword.
Yep.
It looks slightly scarier.
And remember, you can do that because you can shoot at enemy models within engagement range with a pistol.
Yep. Hitting on a 2. Hits this time.
And this also has an AP -3, so effectively I need a 6+. Or 6, which at 1 is no good.
So that destroyer takes a wound. And then he's going to put all of his attacks on the wounded destroyer. It's not likely the other one will manage to kill him. And I'd rather get rid of wounded models, get rid of the most number of attacks that way. So yeah, it's 5 attacks hitting on 2s, getting 5.
So I have to make a lot of 6s here for this destroyer to live. Nope, none at all. So that destroyer takes 5 wounds. I don't know 2 left.
And then it's the destroyer's turn.
Well, I'm going to just stay in melee and carry on chopping. Only 3 attacks left, hitting on 3s, getting 3 hits.
Ooh, 3 4+ saves, need to make at least one of these. I made 2, so the Captain has 2 wounds remaining. Then it's back to his turn. He'll start by shooting his plasma pistol at the remaining destroyer, which hits.
And I need a 6 to save. Nope.
So that destroyer goes down to 2 wounds. And then we've got 5 melee attacks hitting on 2s, getting 4.
So I need to make a lot of 6s as well again. I still haven't made a 6+ save at all this game, so that destroyer is also killed. And victory for the Space Marines. So like previous games, we'll do a best of 3, so we'll set it up again and give the destroyers another go. So we're back again, and the Space Marines get to go first, or the Captain gets to go first again.
Yep, and gunning for this one in the middle worked pretty well last time, so we'll just do that again. Move up so we're an inch away. Shoot with our plasma pistol, hitting on a 2, getting hit.
Needing a 6 to save. Nope. 5 -3 is 2.
So that destroyer in the middle takes a wound, and the Captain will charge that destroyer. Yeah, 10 is easily enough. And then we've got 5 melee attacks hitting on 2s, getting only 3 this time.
We can still kill him if he doesn't roll 2 6s. Nope, no 6s again, so 3 wounds. Kills the destroyer.
And then it's the destroyer's turn.
Yeah, then there go. As we know, they've got plenty of movement, so I'll just move them up to be just over an inch away. And I'll just charge again. So the top one goes to 10, and the bottom one only a 5, but they're right next to him. They'll come in like that. And we'll just do all 6 attacks again, hitting on 3s, getting 5.
4+ invulnerable saves, making 3 this time, so the Captain has got 4 wounds remaining. And on his turn, he'll fire his pistol at the destroyer with a really big sword, hitting on 2. We missed again. And then we got 5 melee attacks on the same destroyer, hitting on 2s. Getting 3, only 3 this time as well.
So if I make 1 6, it lives. Nope. No 6s still. So back to the Necron turn. Can the last destroyer kill the Captain? Not with this attack he can't, because he doesn't have enough attacks. He's got 2 hits.
And then 4+ invulnerable save. Made 1, failed 1, so the Captain has 3 wounds remaining. And he will fire his plasma pistol at the destroyer, hitting on a 2, getting a hit.
Getting a 6 to save. Nope. Down to 2 wounds.
Yep. 5 attacks in melee, hitting on 2s, getting 5 this time.
Still no 6s in all these rolls. That wasn't likely anyway, but that's another win for the Captain.
So the Captain will win the best of 3 quite handily.
Yeah.
Guess we'll do another game, but let the Necrons go first.
Yeah. So set up again, let the Necrons go first. So this one here, with his 8-inch move, can easily get to just over here. I'm only going to get 2 in again to attack him, I think. So this one will move up normally, gets to there. And this one will do the same, gets to about there. And then we'll charge. So we'll start with the one who's right next to the Captain. He only needs a 2, come in like that. And then the one at the top of the board, only got roll a 3, but I think that is enough to get him within an inch. A 3-inch move will get him to about there, which is obviously within an inch. And the other one, as I said, I don't think there's any way he can get within an inch because their bases are too big. So they both make it into contact, and I'll just roll all their attacks together. 6 attacks hitting on 3s. We've got 5.
We've got a 4+ invulnerable save, making 4, so the Captain's down to 5 wounds. And then in his turn, he'll fire his plasma pistol, the one with the big sword, I suppose. It looks the most intimidating. Hitting on a 2, he hit.
Needing a 6 to save. Nope.
Down to 2 wounds on that destroyer, and then he'll put all of his attacks on that one. We're not going to be greedy, we're going to be sensible and put all our attacks on the wounded one. Hitting on 2s, getting 4.
Hitting 6s. Oh, I got a 6 this time, but there's still 3 wounds, it's enough to kill it.
That destroyer goes down, back to the Necrons.
This one will just move in, and then it will charge in the charge phase. 11 inches. Yeah, plenty of room. And then we've got 6 attacks again, hitting on 3s, getting only 3.
4+ saves. Oh, failed them all though, so he's down to 2 wounds on the captain.
Back to the captain's go.
Yeah, and he'll put his plasma pistol shot on the new arrival. So single shot hitting on 2 gets a hit.
Hitting a 6. Nope.
2 wounds. Put all of his melee attacks on that one as well. Hitting on 2s. Only getting 3.
Still need to make 2 6s though. Nope. 1.
So that destroyer goes down as well.
Can the last destroyer do 2 wounds before he dies? Hitting on 3s. He's got 2 hits.
Oh, 4+ save. Maybe both. Well, 4+ invulnerable save, I should say. So the captain's going to fire his plasma pistol, which hits.
Hitting a 6. Nope.
Down to 2 wounds. And then 5 melee attacks hitting on 2s. Getting 5.
To make an awful lot of 6s. No 6s at all.
So that destroyer is killed as well.
So I think the captain rather convincingly wins this, leading by example indeed. So definitely a Space Marine victory for this game, and we'll recap that all for you now. So that was the game for issue 5 of Warhammer 40,000 Imperium magazine. How did you think that went?
Probably couldn't really have gone any better, except making a few more saves, I suppose. Not too surprised with the outcome, because with 5 attacks hitting on 2s, you're nearly always going to get 4 or 5 hits. And even with a 6+ save, it's pretty unlikely a destroyer is actually going to survive against the captain in melee. You only rolled 1 6, I think, in all of those games for saves. But even then, if you get 5 hits, statistically, it's very unlikely a destroyer will survive around a melee.
Yeah, even if I had rolled a few 6s, I still would have been taking far more wounds than I had left. Yeah, I think barring he's being extremely unlucky, that game is definitely in the captain's favour, even if you let the Necrons go first.
Yeah, with the rules we're using as well.
Perhaps if I could get all 3 destroyers on you at once, so if the captain charged in and failed to kill the one in the middle, and then all 3 destroyers could attack him, there's a chance of doing more wounds. It's just comes down to a number of attacks, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically, eventually he'll fail enough saves that you'll lose. 4+ invulnerable save is actually fairly good in Warhammer 40,000, but it's still only a 50-50 chance. Yeah, I kind of think that maybe this game makes the destroyers look kind of bad, but if you're watching this and you know the full rules for both of these, for the destroyers at least, they probably should actually beat the captain if we're using the full rules. Hopefully soon enough we'll learn. Well, the destroyers will get their full rules.
And it wouldn't look very good to have the new captain model get completely pasted in melee in his first game, would it? So,
And the plasma pistol. I guess it's nice to learn how pistols work, so hopefully the lieutenant and the assault intercessors can use theirs in future games, but it's sort of a bit redundant in this issue.
Yeah, I mean, it meant you did a couple of wounds here and there, which meant technically I had to pass even more saves than I didn't. And I felt it as AP as well, I suppose, just makes it fit in with this issue's theme. And having had the large board last issue, it was a little bit strange to be back to the small one, I suppose, but if it follows the same sort of pattern as Mortal Realms magazine, then we'll probably return to the small board when there's some important new rule to learn. Maybe they just want a smaller battlefield so you can concentrate more on learning the new rules.
Well, that and having the larger board, we just spend more time moving. It'd probably be easier for the captain because the destroyers would be spread out more. And also, I suppose then you don't need to introduce range for range weapons as well.
And, well, I suppose we should talk about the captain. From a rules point of view, I mean, obviously he has more abilities than this, but it's kind of a basic version of what he is. He's quite good in melee, he's got quite a lot of wounds. And it was only implied in the fiction in this game, but once we get his full rules, you'll see he has rules that allow him to basically improve the troops around him and actually lead from the front, really.
He is basically very similar to the lieutenant in that regard. He's slightly better in melee, he's slightly more durable. He improves the Marines around him in a slightly different way.
While still being a capable fighter.
If you're making a Space Marine army, I think you can make a Space Marine army without any captains, but you can't really go wrong with one.
Yeah, there are other loadouts for captains that are probably more effective at both shooting and fighting, but...
Yeah, it's probably not what I would choose personally, the plasma pistol. So I can't remember the captain's data sheet off the top of my head, but I'm not sure you can actually give them plasma pistols, or there might be one specific loadout you can give them. Presumably you'll get a proper data sheet for him, and you can just use that one.
But if you are new to this and you worry that actually technically he can't have these warrior options, then firstly, if you're playing against a reasonable opponent, they'll probably just let you use them because it's not like it's an overpowered loadout. It's not going to skew the game. But also, there will be rules given for him in this magazine, so you will be able to use him as depicted in the model. So don't worry about that. If you hear anybody saying, oh, we can't use this captain, then it will be fixed soon.
And I guess, and talking about the model, well, one thing is that this miniature is unique to this issue and this magazine, so if you do want this sculpt, this is the only way to get it. And it's also a very good price for a Space Marine Captain as well. They're usually about £22.50. I think there's one variant that is £23.50 or something like that.
Yeah.
I think the picture on the magazine, it's a very weird angle for him because you can't really tell what's happening. It's kind of hard to see what angle his plasma pistol is actually at, and his sword looks kind of like he's holding his sword above him and looking at it, but when you actually see the model, he looks a bit more heroic at least. And I do like that he doesn't have any chapter iconography on him either, so if you're not doing the Ultramarines, you can just adapt him to any other chapter really easily as well.
Yeah, and actually, it's notable that in the previous two magazines, although I did like the exclusive models for the previous two magazines, Lieutenant Caustius and Zandra Azubot both had names and backstories given to them. If you weren't collecting Ultramarine, Space Marines, or Powers of Sigmar, Stormcast Eternals, they were special characters for those groups, whereas in this case, they've actually let us basically pick our own backstory for the captain. Like with all the other stuff, we've got the battle record that we saw earlier. He can be your captain.
Building your army as opposed to building an army, I guess. I forgot to mention his name, but I actually decided off camera rather than just running it. He's Captain Marcius Venator as well.
Yeah.
Is he also the only captain we get with the magazine as well?
I believe so, yes. Yeah. And as far as we know so far, at least. And the big poster that came with the first couple of issues, there didn't appear to be any other captains on it, so
we're probably going to be seeing a lot of him.
Anyway, I think that's it for this issue, so if you enjoyed this video, then please leave a like and subscribe. Let us know your thoughts. If you got the new captain, then let us know how you painted him, or what you called him, or whatever. Or let us know your thoughts on the model. We've been the Tabletop Donkeys, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye for now.